And welcome to It Takes a Village. My name is Tuesdaé Knight, and I'm the president and CEO of SAGE San Antonio for Growth on the East Side. It Takes a Village is an intimate discussion that we're having with our community members, leaders, people all throughout the east side of San Antonio. And our goal is to make sure that we're getting information to you, information about current topics, and ways to keep our community informed. And so we're doing this virtually, and we're so excited this morning to have Chief Innovation Officer Brian Dillard for the city of San Antonio here with us this morning. So Brian Dillard is a third generation East Side San Antonio native. He was born and raised in the former Wheatley Courts area, now East Meadows. Brian attended Wheatley Middle School and graduated from Sam Houston High School in 2001. Brian Dillard holds a bachelor's degree in political science and is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, where he served 10 years as active duty. Brian is a former president of the Dignity Hill Neighborhood Association and has served as a board member for VIA, the Ella Austin Community Center, and the San Antonio Central Partnership. He's also helped us out a lot here at SAGE. So we've got some questions. We're going to jump right into the conversation. Brian, Chief Innovation Officer, what the heck is that?
Yeah, that's a question every time I introduce myself. I'm sure either people are wondering it internally or they just ask it right away. I think that the first time I told my parents, I was like, I got the spot. They finally asked, what is it? So first of all, thank you. This is an awesome opportunity. I love that Sage is doing this. Chief Innovation Officer, Office of Innovation, definitely a lot of confusion around that. Sounds very cool. Basically, our job is to take things that we're already doing within the city of San Antonio and identify ways we can do them better. Okay. So I'll kind of give you the overview of what the Office of Innovation looks like, and that'll give you more of a good feel or a worse feel for what we actually do.
Awesome, I'm ready. And I have my coffee. Do you have your coffee?
Yes, I've got mine.
Awesome.
Got it.
I'm ready.
So really, we have three teams right now, and the Office of Innovation has been around for probably about 15 years now. A lot of folks don't realize that. We started off underneath the Office of Budget, and we were originally called the Office of Innovation and Reform. It was a different time in the city then. So we've dropped the reform. We became our own department about 5 years ago, and we really have three teams right now. So I have a staff of about 7. Team of about 7 folks. We'll soon be about 13. I didn't realize that until last night.
Wow.
Didn't count. But our three teams exist of our R&D, process improvement, and our smart cities team. So I'll start off with the newest one, which is our R&D league. So this is research and development. The city of San Antonio now has a research and development arm within the organization. And really the intent of this is to experiment. It's really to identify how can we do new things with city services to provide better services and more efficient services for our resident, for our customer. Some examples of what we're doing with that is one is called a City Hall to Go project. So basically, before COVID, the intent was that we would take a food truck and equip it with technology, drive it out to the community, and then provide city services there. So instead of you having to come downtown to visit Metro Health or come downtown to get your birth certificate, instead we're going to do it right there in front. The county has a program like that underneath the county clerk. And some of these things are just kind of copy and paste and try it out in our space. So that's one example of what R&D League is. We take these new approaches and we say, let's try it out. Let's determine if it works and then use it as a data-driven decision-making item to really drive policy forward. So that's the first team.
Okay.
The second team is process improvement or Innovation Academy. This team was the bread and butter of innovation. It still is. So process improvement, when I say that term, it's really about looking at processes and procedures within City of San Antonio departments. We have about 40 plus departments and 13,000 employees. And obviously we serve 1.5 million residents. It's taking those processes and procedures, doing a workflow analysis of them, and then we provide a recommendation and help implement that recommendation on how we can improve those services. Right now, we do that for the departments whenever the city manager identifies an issue or our staff identifies an issue in the department. What we're building now is called Innovation Academy. So this is really about, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach him how to fish, he'll live forever, right?
I love that.
I love it. What we're doing is we're taking subject matter experts, SMEs in each department, and we're pulling them in and having them go through this 16-week course and training them on our job. We're training them on Lean Six Sigma. We're training them on user design. We're training them on how to do data analysis. All these are very important when you go into a department and you start from scratch on a process that's been around for a decade, probably. You got to really understand who you're serving, your customer, but also who's going to be implementing that service, that city employee. And you got to take it down to bare bones and identify what's your objective. What are you really trying to do and how can we do that better? So that's really, in a nutshell, is process improvement. And Innovation Academy is our new course. We started that in March. We're going on our second cohort now, which is really exciting. So we are definitely trying to make the city more efficient and effective. And then our third team is our Smart Cities team. So that's where I started off at when I got with the city about 2 years ago. I started off as Smart City Administrator. We had 2 coordinators come in the week after me, as well as a specialist. And honestly, we were the first Smart City titled individuals within the city of San Antonio. Not the first Smart City title in the world, but definitely in San Antonio. So that meant 2 things. 1, another cool title. But 2, we had to identify what that actually meant. Now, there was some work done in the year before that, with workshops and everything around what it means to San Antonio to be a smart city. But the ground game hadn't really gotten there yet. So our first 3 months was all community engagement. All we did was community surveys. We went out to we have 3 innovation zones here in the city of San Antonio. It's a medical center downtown in Brooks. We went to those 3, we hit up digital, we did foot game, all of it. And we asked the city, what do you want to see? What are the challenges that you face day to day? Because what we didn't want to do, that we've seen some other cities do, is they'll take this smart city thing and they'll just kind of look at technology, they'll listen to vendors, and they'll just say, give me the coolest thing. That coolest thing isn't always the thing that really makes an impact on citizens' lives, on residents' lives. And that's what we're here to do. So a couple of projects we did through that. One is our Smart Streetlight program, which is actually, those are being installed right now within our 3 innovation zones. So those are hitting air quality censoring, acoustic noise detection. So a lot of folks don't realize air pollution is actually something that's a health risk for a lot of our residents. Parking detection. So for our downtown area pre-COVID, and hopefully we'll get back there, but parking has been an issue for folks, whether it's a real issue or not. So we're doing a parking detection solution on that Smart Streetlight program as well. And again, those are our pilots being launched right now for 6 months. You'll see more about that, which is really exciting. The second project on these smart cities is our big digital inclusion project. So when we were doing all the exploration around smart cities, we really wanted to make sure that as we move forward, we are being very inclusive and making sure that our residents were connected. As you implement technology, as you expand this digital realm when it comes to city services, communications, finance, healthcare, all this stuff that's going into the digital realm, you can't really call yourself a smart city if a quarter of your residents don't have access to the internet. And we knew that. We knew that from a high level. But our first step into identifying that on a lower level was on a local level. Last June, we went to our council committee, our Innovation Technology Council Committee. We proposed to them, we do a gap analysis. So we did a digital divide assessment. We did this in coordination with Bexar County and our Digital Inclusion Alliance of San Antonio. And we commissioned UTSA to help us do that work to make sure we were statistically validated in everything that we were doing. That turned out with 11 report cards, 10 for all the council districts, and then 1 for the city overall. And then we have a 36-page report identifying on a local level, what does a digital inclusion look like here in San Antonio, or what are we lacking? So that digital inclusion piece is something the city's done in the past. The city has done in the past with our public libraries. I mean, I can't identify a better digital inclusion project than free internet in all of our libraries in our neighborhoods.
Especially right now.
Exactly. And on that note, I do have to give a shout out to VIA because they do have the largest free Wi-Fi network in the city with their with their transportation system.
Yes, VIA.
But that's really the kind of over encompassing. We do have one new team coming on though. In the new budget, we actually are now focusing on public safety. So I have a public safety.
Tell me more about that.
So with the climate that's going on around police reform,
Mhm.
there's been a conversation from the city manager's angle of, okay, if I'm not able to change up the budget too much, what can I do on a foundational level to really change the way public safety looks and feels and operates within the city of San Antonio? They decided to allocate 3 vacancies that were within San Antonio Police Department to the Office of Innovation, which is exciting. And they really wanted them to be charged to identify how we can be more transparent and accountable for public safety through statistics and data. We know that there's a lot of data that's gathered from public safety. And this is every city. Every city has an issue with keeping up with all of that data and identifying how do you utilize that? How do you make sure that the community has a hold on it? And so that's really been the challenge or the charge for this team, is to take that data, identify what that data looks like, do a data inventory for the PD, identify how we can put that out there to the public and make it digestible and understandable for general residents, and then do something with it. Identify how do we change our approach for public safety utilizing this information. And when I say data, I'm not just talking about numbers. I'm talking about stories. I'm talking about residents' feedback on how their services are being provided by public safety. How do we do a better job? So I'm really excited about that. That should be occurring in the next month. So
That's another level of what you have to explain about your job and what you work on.
It's a wide spectrum. So it's an exciting job. I love my job. I've never been able to say that ever in my career that I love my job.
Not even in the Air Force?
I love my job. I love the travel, but I love my job now. So I'm very excited. I got a great team. I work for some great people. So yeah.
Yeah. And now you're adding more people because public safety being what it is right now. Because let's be honest here, Brian. 2020 is pretty sucky, right? So yes, we have a pandemic. Yes, we have murder hornets. Yes, we have, now the whole West Coast is on fire. And just and now with things being the way they are with coronavirus, we still have to now focus on digital divide because everything is online. Our communication right now, my communication with my teams, your communication with your teams, I'm pretty certain. So, one of the things that I heard once upon a time was, and you even mentioned right now, about 1 in 4 have issues with digital divide, right? They're high-speed internet. So tell me what, programs and reports the cities are working on and what your office is doing to focus on that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we did the digital divide assessment. We kicked that off. So we got council approval to do that in June. And then we kicked it off in December of last year and went through February, the survey phase, and we reported out this June. I'm so glad that somehow we prophetically did this before the pandemic hit, because I don't know how we could have surveyed properly in this current climate of social distancing and remote work and distance learning. It would have been a lot tougher. So we did our survey phase. UTSA, for that report we commissioned, they mentioned that we needed to get 4,000 responses in order to be statistically validated for a report to cover the entire city. We ended up with over 8,200 responses. And I think we had 6,300 of those come back that were fully complete. These are legit responses.
What kind of questions were asked?
So everything from, do you have internet at home? To do you have a device? To do you know how to navigate utilizing a cell phone, a smartphone? Do you know how to detect phishing items? So the reason that the questions were so wide is because we based the survey on the 3 legs of digital inclusion stool. So what those 3 legs are, and many people know this, but this is something that's brand new for a lot of folks that are jumping into this digital inclusion item. So the first leg is really broadband internet access. So understanding, do you have internet or don't you? Now, whether that's through hotspots, whether that's through, a landline coming in, that's another question we had under the survey. But broadband internet access is not just having the connection, it's having the quality and also being able to afford it. So that's the first leg of that stool. The second leg of the 3 is access to devices. So understanding I can provide you free Wi-Fi, but if you don't have a device to access it, then back to square one. Or now in the current climate, If you have one device, but you got 3 school-aged children in your home
Yep.
at different levels, then
Yep.
I got a bigger problem. Actually, that adds on another level back to broadband, which is now you got 3, 4 devices streaming all at once, and the quality of your broadband was already crap.
Already. So
But
now.
yeah. So then the third piece is really digital literacy, digital support. So understanding I can provide you free Wi-Fi, I can give you a laptop. But if you don't know how to use it or what to use it for, then I'm back to square one. Then it just becomes this paperweight that's sitting on the desk somewhere, and you're back to your smartphone. So that's really where we came from with the survey. As I mentioned, UTSA, Bear County, Digital Inclusion Alliance, they all helped us develop the survey over months, and then deploy and go out to the public. And this isn't the last thing, though. I don't want, and that, I guess that's one of the biggest points is we didn't want to do this report just to have it sitting on a shelf. We wanted 2 things to happen after that. One, we wanted to come out with action items, which closing out right before the pandemic, we definitely had a big action item there. And then 2, we didn't want a report that was, just stale. So this is definitely a feedback loop. We want to continuously do these surveys and census items to make sure we're gathering more information. After the pandemic, after schools started distributing devices and internet providers started doing a better job at providing connectivity, I'm sure those responses are probably going to change. But that digital literacy side, that digital support side may get worse. Folks that are jumping into this realm that have never been here before might be in a worse position. So that's really the report side. And now everybody's like, okay, cool, we got the report. Now, what are you actually doing? So the pandemic, I forget who it is, they say take advantage of every crisis that comes along. And we definitely did that with this. We understood the struggle that schools, students, and families with students were having once the pandemic hit in March, April. Still during school time, right at the end. Thank goodness it was right at the end, because then we had summertime to figure out what were we supposed to be doing. So we pledged to council that we would have a solution for our students in our most vulnerable neighborhoods. So right now, what it's called is Connected Beyond the Classroom. And this is intended to provide in-home internet access for 20,000 students throughout our top 50 most vulnerable neighborhoods that include 8 independent school districts. So
how would somebody find out about that? Or to get more information?
So the pilot is kicking off right now.
Okay.
So we'll be kind of spreading the word, but really we're working through our school district. So City of San Antonio, we try to get the word out as much as possible. We try to do our campaigns as they speak up, but oftentimes the best route is to go through the community partners that are servicing the residents that you're really trying to reach. So those students, I mean, they are connected with their school districts. When the pandemic hit, it was really tough because a lot of them had to go to that digital realm. But school districts over the summer found a better way to communicate with them. So we're really going through school districts, working with the communities and schools, working with United Way, working with all those community partners that have those face-to-face or screen-to-screen interactions on a daily, weekly basis. So what this looks like is the Connected Beyond the Classroom project is when little Johnny logs into little Johnny's Wi-Fi, he won't drop down and go to little Johnny's Wi-Fi. He'll pull down and he'll actually go to SEISD's network. He'll log directly into Edgewood ISD's network. That is very beneficial for us as a city because we're able to provide this solution, which wasn't in our toolbox before, because there is a state municipal code set up from 2005 that limits the opportunity for cities in Texas to provide broadband internet to residents. So what we're doing with this is we're actually expanding existing infrastructure, which is called COSA net. So everybody asks about CPS dark fiber. We've merged that into the City of San Antonio's network, and that is now COSA net. And we're expanding that out to these neighborhoods and distributing a private LTE network within these neighborhoods for students to access. We are doing this project, but we are also doing hotspots. We're doing the triage work, but we really need a long-term solution because it's not just about recovery, it's about recovery and resiliency, making sure that next year, if as these waves come along, that students are still able to access the internet. So what I didn't want to happen is 2 to 3 years from now, I didn't want taxpayers and council coming back to me and saying, hey, you remember those millions of dollars we gave to you for digital inclusion? Where are they now? And
What's happening? What's going on?
And I don't want I don't want to have to say, well, the hotspots are obsolete now, or they got thrown in the trash or something.
Right.
We really wanted a long-term solution to this. So really excited about that work.
Away, right? I mean,
what's that?
This isn't going away.
No.
I think that we're going to be doing this for the long term. I think that, all of those things that you've put in place are probably going to be needed for years to come. I'm sad about it because, I'm a hugger and we can't hug this way, but it's okay. So, you brought up all the schools because that's a big problem right now. What about all of these people that are working from home, and maybe need some of that? What if they're not connected to the school system? How can your services and programs help them?
So we have challenged the telecoms and ISPs to do a better job in that place, and they really want to. It's just, everybody's trying to figure out how do we do this on a grander scale. We're not the only city that they're having, issues with regarding connecting residents. So we actually released an RFP, and that has closed today, actually. And we are actually scoring responses. Basically, the RFP is telling telecoms and ISPs, they told us initially when we launched this project that they could do it easier, they could do it quicker, better, and cheaper. And so this RFP is us telling them, do it. Because honestly, from our angle, if you could, you would have already. I wouldn't have this issue. Pandemic wouldn't have hit, and I got families that don't have connectivity, or they have hotspots from your company, and the cellular network in that area isn't existent enough to actually use a hotspot. So yes, we're starting off with students, but it's really a pilot, a proof of concept to identify how do we do this on a larger scale. As I mentioned, the city of San Antonio is limited on what they can do for general residents when it comes to internet access. But we're identifying new avenues for that. We are also setting up community hubs. So we're working with our Parks and Rec department, our community centers as they begin to open in a safe and slow manner. We want those to be kind of, almost like internet cafes to a certain extent for students, but also for parents, for folks who, they need financial support, and a lot of that's online now. They need healthcare support. A lot of telemed, is happening right now. Overall public services, we offer a lot of those online. Those are really some exploration opportunities that we're looking to provide for general residents. Overall, I mean, I hope we have some legislative policy coming through in the next year or two. Session starts in January. I hope that comes through and we see some change in legislative items that allow cities to provide basic internet services. I don't need to provide Netflix and Hulu access for everybody, but I would love them to be able to access public information and public services through, their local area, at least at home.
Absolutely. So thanks for that plug. Go out and vote. So that's important. Okay. So Brian, we've talked about a lot. And a lot of what you do and how you are just basically trying to make sure that these 1.5 million people in the city of San Antonio have access to everything that's going on. And that's kind of on your shoulders, it seems like. So didn't mean to say it like that, but it kind of is.
Thanks.
So with that said, how do you decompress? One of the things that we were talking about was every time you ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? Before you get this pat answer of, oh, I'm good. But now you have to be prepared for, whatever it is. So how are you doing right now?
So my response is always, I'm healthy, happy, and I'm employed, because that is not something that a lot of people can say right now. So I'm very much an optimist. And so I say that, and that's really what it is. Yeah. Healthy, happy, and employed. That's how I'm doing.
Exactly. And then decompress?
Miller Lite and whiskey on Fridays. I look forward to that. No, that is true. But
I'm right there with you. Yeah, absolutely. Friday can't come fast enough sometimes.
So my wife got a Peloton in September.
Not the way that was really bad in the beginning, right? With the guy saying,
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I started using it, right? And then the pandemic hit, and I was like staring at it. It's in the room next door. I'm like, all right. And so Peloton's been great. I've gotten back into running a lot now. Work from home really allows a lot of flexibility. I'm a multitasker. And so
I would never have guessed that. You're gonna have to be with these 17
right, yeah,
jobs.
And so I'd like when I'm on calls now, I have plants here. Everybody's got plants now, which is great. I get to clean up. It's really about like identifying a routine. So all the running and Peloton, I make sure I do that often, just kind of work out. I do lemon water in the mornings now. I can keep the house a little bit cleaner because I'm just fidgeting when I'm on calls and stuff now. So
my husband watch this. I'm listening.
Don't get me in trouble. But yeah, I mean, it's really about finding routine. When it comes to like, the kind of almost depressing kind of culture or things that are going on right now. I mean, you got police reform, you got a lot of, which is good, a lot of challenges in ways society operates, but at times it can just be overwhelming. Really with decompressing or finding a way to make sure that, you don't get down or kind of just beaten up by all that is find your place. And again, I mean, my job allows me to do a lot in the space of making sure that I get to impact community, I get to impact the city that I live in, I get to impact society overall. So if I were still in my job at cybersecurity, staring at a screen all day, I think I'd be burning up right now because I'm like, God, what am I doing? But now, my team and I, we get to do that every day. And I'm really excited about that. I'm blessed. I know that's not an opportunity everybody has. So I definitely take great value in that. So that's another way I decompress is honestly just working. So
that's awesome. And then you could finish your day by saying, I helped all these people. So, so finally, you have direct firsthand knowledge about what's going on digitally here in the city. So how can the people that are watching this right now, who, obviously have access to broadband, because that's the only way they're watching this right now, how can people help other people in their communities to bridge this gap? Is it, talking to their neighbors? Is it helping share hotspots? Is it what recommendations do you have for the community to help deal with some of this?
Identifying how to be collaborative and collective in our communities is going to be, it is impactful, and it's going to continue to be more and more impactful. I think one thing from this pandemic that we've identified is that we can't do this on our own. And I say that like kind of out there, it takes a village. There you go. We cannot do this alone. Yeah, it does take a village. I mean, we're realizing that more and more. We've always said that, but now it's getting to the point where, I mean, you see like the food lines at food bank, we see that folks are having. So when it comes to, digital inclusion, digital access, and how do we help, one, say something about it. So, I mean, I love that, that's one of the topics we discussed today. That really helps, it drives it home for not only policymakers, but there's folks that still don't realize that the digital divide is a thing. They've had digital access for decades, and they just don't realize that families are suffering right now due to a lack of access. So having these conversations is very impactful. And then two, that collaborative spirit with regard to resources. So that doesn't always have to be financial resources. That can be personnel resources. So there's a lot of facilitation that's needed in order to identify the needs of our community, but also provide those needs. You look at the food bank. Folks that are helping out at the food bank in those lines, they're not bringing food all the time. They're just there. They're bodies that are needed to assist. Our school districts definitely need that now, with more of this digital access being an issue and more of them going on into the digital realm. They need that digital support. So I would say if you're a general resident, yeah, absolutely. Open up your home's wireless access point to your neighbor, if you can, if it doesn't degrade your own quality. Have those conversations, and maybe that's an opportunity to kind of build with your neighbor a little bit. But if you're a business or community leader, I would say continue this conversation, continue with policymakers and other leaders like yourselves, and make sure it doesn't die down. Again, this is, like you said, this isn't something that's going to go away anytime soon. This is kind of the new normal. So make sure it's part of the conversation now. Internet is a public utility, and it should be treated like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to end on a different note, just because I love your shirt. It is a Guayavera. Please feel free to tell our watchers who may not know what that is.
It's a Guayavera. How do you spell it? Let me see if I can spell it. Guayavera. I think I got that right. I've been learning Spanish too. That's been another thing.
Oh, that's another thing you're learning during
it's just like on Duolingo, like an app. But I'm like 40 days on, so I'm doing all right.
You're doing pretty good. All right, that's our next call. We're gonna do it all in Spanish.
Oh no, I might miss that one.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for being here this morning. I know it was a lot of information you kind of threw in all together, but I know our viewers really value the work that you're doing, and I think it's important, and we know it's important because, again, if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to even have this conversation. So thank you so much for being here. Our viewers, please tune in for the rest of our shows. We have It Takes a Village coming along with lots of other different community members, leaders. But again, this is a conversation that you may not hear on another note, and you get all kinds of information. So please make sure you tune in for the rest of them. We will have great other speakers, such as Brian, but so happy to be here with you. And please make sure that you watch the next few series, but also if you miss any of them, go to sagesa.org, or you can go to our newsletter and get all of the information there. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay Eastside strong. So have a great day, everybody.